Islam. And the alliance of virtue was created for a specific purpose, historically speaking. So if you can shed some light about these successful historical examples of the alliance that Sheikh Abdullah bin Bayyan yourself trying to revive to address problems that we face today.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Well, first of all, I think it's important to remember that history, when we look at history, it tends to be a history of the worst aspects of humanity. A lot of history is a history of wars, a history of trials and tribulations. Calamities were often how people marked events, like the year the dam burst. You know, they say if a million airplanes land safely, no media comments on it. But if one crashes, everybody hears about it in the news. So I think one of the things that's very important to remember is that people throughout history have cooperated and worked together in many places and many times. One of my favorite quotes is by Helen Keller. She said that the world is undeniably filled with suffering, but we should never forget it's also filled with the overcoming of suffering. That there are a lot of people working. I mean, what we're hearing here are examples of a lot of people working together. So there are many horrors on the planet, and I think a lot of secular people tend to focus on this and then give the examples of why religion is not valid. The reality of it is most religious people are actually really attempting to live virtuous lives. And so if we look historically, just a few examples, the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ attempted to create an environment of religious freedom. A recent historian has argued that looking at the geopolitical environment that the Prophet ﷺ was in, it's arguable that he had two main intentions in what he set out to do. One was to make the world free for religious practice, devotion, and the second was to make it free for trade, a mutual trade, what we call today fair trade, which in the Quran is called tijaratun an taradin, or tijaratan an taradin. And fair trade, what's interesting, Mecca is a central devotional place, but it's also a place of trade. People spend a great deal of time in the mosque, but they also spend a great deal of time in the marketplace. And in Mecca, and the Quran actually says, لِيَشْهَدُوا مَنَافِعَ لَهُمْ, that one of the purposes of the pilgrimage is also for commercial benefit. And so the fact that the Prophet was not only a prophet, but was also a merchant. And the thing about, unless you're in the business of war, war is the worst thing for business. And so to create environments where trade can thrive, and all of this, everything that we have, all of our clothes, our glasses, all of these things is based on trade. You know, this is all trade. Right. The fact that we're drinking the water from this, everything is trade. And so merchants are after people, giving people spiritual sustenance. The most beneficial people on the planet are merchants, are people that actually bring the goods to the world. And it's interesting that we call these things goods and services. Like the idea of serving. And one of the great flaws of Adam Smith was to make the argument that it was selfishness that drives the merchant, and this was a good thing. In all of our religious traditions, whether it's in the Hindu Bhakti Yoga, or in the Islamic tradition of innamal a'malu binniyat, or the Christian tradition of service, people made their occupations devotional. And this is one of the things that we've lost. So I think it's extremely important for us to recognize that the world works because of cooperation. We all arrived from various places on these airplanes because of incredible cooperation. I mean, the logistical cooperation that went into place just to get us physically to this space is stunning. And I think when we see that the people of the worldly matters can cooperate so incredibly, it's a tragedy that the people of other worldly matters often fail to cooperate in the same way. And one of the verses in the Quran is ta'awunu 'ala al-birri wa taqwa wa la ta'awunu 'ala al-ithmi wal 'udwan. to cooperate with one another in dutiful piety and in good deeds and good actions, and not in sinfulness and aggression. That verse was revealed to the Prophet about the pagan Meccans, like that you should be working in good things, not in aggressive things. And so historically, we have seen many examples of this. Interfaith dialogue, the Prophet ﷺ initiated interfaith dialogue. In Ibn Ishaq mentions that he used to go to the Midrash, the place where the Jewish rabbis in Medina studied, and he would talk to them and discuss about religion. We know that the Christians of Najran came to Medina, and the Prophet not only honored them, but he allowed them to pray in his mosque, to the consternation of some of the Muslims who were surprised by that. So we also have amazing times in both the Muslim and in other places where there was immense cooperation. One of the greatest sages of Judaism is Musha bin Mamun, or Maimonides. Maimonides wrote many of his works in Arabic, that he was friends with Averroes, that they were in a circle. I read a beautiful story in one of Qadi Abu Bakr ibn al-Arabi's, his Rihla, where he went and he met rabbis in Jerusalem. He was from Andalusia, where there was a Jewish population, but he went to Jerusalem and had discussions with the rabbis. Fakhruddin al-Razi talks about discussing with Christians and with, so the interfaith dialogue is one thing, but we're at a stage, I believe, where we have to really focus on interfaith action, because I think words are extremely important, and I'm very committed to words, and words move worlds.
Right.
And all of our revelations are words. So we should never forget the power of words and the importance of people. But I think it's extremely important for us at this stage to bracket the idea of proselytizing to others. I think it's a very dangerous thing in the current context. Until we can, to get things settled down, we can think about things like that later. The three great proselytizing faiths in human history are Christianity, Buddhism, and Islam. And the impulse to want to share with others the truth that you have is undeniably a very powerful and important one. The Jewish tradition recognizes the Noahidic people. The idea that Christians and Muslims, according to the Jewish tradition, are saved within the Noahidic practices. So spreading monotheism is important for the Jewish tradition, but not necessarily the idea of having other people enter into that covenant and having to practice the 613 as opposed to 7 laws. It's much easier to not be a Jew in Judaism than to be a Jew, but to be a Noahide. So I think that's very important to bracket that and to really focus on that. The other thing, the Quran has some very interesting verses that I think we should really think about deeply. Things like لِكُلٍّ وِجْهَةٌ هُوَ مُوَلِّيهَا فَاسْتَبِقُوا الْخَيْرَاتِ. Everybody has their own inner directedness, so vie in virtue with each other. Another verse in Al-Ma'idah tells us that لِكُلٍّ جَعَلْنَا مِنْكُمْ شَرْعَةً وَمِنْهَاجًا. We gave each of you a way and a path. Minhag in Hebrew, it's the same term that's used in Hebrew. And then it says, and had God wanted, right? لَوْ شَاءَ اللَّهُ لَجَعَلَكُمْ أُمَّةً وَاحِدَةً. Had He wanted, He would have made you all one religion, right? وَلَكِنْ لِيَبْلُوكُمْ فِيمَا أَتَاكُمْ. But to test you in what He has given you. And then He says, فَاسْتَبِقُوا الْخَيْرَاتِ. Vie in virtue. And I think this is an extremely important message from the Quran to all of us.
Yeah, so this is a clear command, basically, from the Quranic textual references that to collaborate for the common good.
In virtue.
Regardless of any kind of religious affiliation, to collaborate with whoever that advancing common good.
Right.
Very good. So it's it's a good transition to go to Yenna Wahid here. Yenna, we know the dedication of your father. May God be mercy on him. And we also know your own dedication and commitment as a woman of faith within the largest, Islamic organization I would say in the world, like one Nahdlatul Ulama in Indonesia, like 60 million members. 80 now. So I need to update my data here. So 80 million members from Nahdlatul Ulama, famous in Indonesia. So the Wahid Institute engage in interreligious dialogue and advance that. So if you can tell us practical, basically examples of how you advance virtue, as Sheikh Hamza mentioning earlier.
Thank you very much, Dr. Sanusi. But first of all, let me express my utmost gratitude to Sheikh Abdullah bin Bayyah for his very important works, and also helped by you also, Dr. Yusuf, that really helps us in our works, especially in the grassroots. And second of all, I also like to thank all the audience who stick by us now, you know, and even though lunch is calling, I promise you that lunch will taste so much better because of your patience. Yes, so the Wahid Foundation, it actually works with the grassroots of Nahdlatul Ulama, and we help try to facilitate dialogues between Muslims and non-Muslims in Indonesia and also regionally. We foster young thinkers as well as try to inspire opinion makers in the society, and also policy makers in our society to help to create better policies that would then help to create a better conducive elements for more tolerance in the society. But our work actually starts with, of course, with the Nahdlatul Ulama, like you mentioned, and Dr. Salam mentioned earlier about the case that he encountered in East Java. Did you say, or Central Java? In Central Java, in which people from various religious backgrounds work together, and this is not uncommon in our country. In fact, we lost one of our youth members back in the year 2000, who lost his life guarding a church from a bomb attack. So, because Dr. Salah mentioned before, but also bomb attack. So that's the extent of tradition of tolerance that we have within our society and within our organization. So to answer your questions about the applications, especially from the theoretical level to bring it to on the application level, this need for creating dialogues in the society, then we try to create a program which is called a Peace Village Initiative. Actually, it came from our research. From our research, we found that some of the factors that lead to radicalisms are not necessarily what people used to think. You know, some people still believe that level of education and level of income actually contributes to radicalism. But according to our research, it's not so. A sense of grievance, a sense of despair, it actually leads people has the potential to lead people to radicalism, as well as exposure to materials that contain hateful messages, especially when it's based on religious teachings. So based on this, we thought we cannot stop a flow of information. This is an age in which information flows freely. So what do? We need to build resilience in the community. That's what we need to do, so that when they get all sorts of information, then they will be able to still stick to what the true teachings of religions tell them to do, which is to extend peace, to extend kindness to others. So a Peace Village initiative is an initiative which targets community on the village level, building peaceful attitudes, one village at a time, especially targeting women. So there are three components of the initiative. One is women empowerment. Second, it is the economic development, true economic empowerment. And the third one is peace-building mechanism. So combining these three, trying to build a cohesiveness in the community, and in the end, we try to build a more cohesive society. So that's the initiative.
Wonderful, thank you. Sheikh Hamza, yes, you can add, and also I wanna, you also, you know, beautiful examples, historical perspective, but what are the challenges that we face as we move forward to build such an operational for the Alliance?
I just want to give one example of, I think, an extraordinary, that is on the panel. The Lutheran Church, which is an organized church in the United States, they had an extraordinary piece of property in Berkeley. It was a Lutheran college. Yeah. And the developers, because the Bay Area is landlocked, so you can't build there anymore. The developers were literally drooling over this property. And the Lutherans could have sold it for a much higher price. And they had 3 cash bids, and 2 of them were over our bid. But they chose to sell it to the Muslim college because the endowment was originally for God. And so they felt that it was more appropriate to sell it to one of the Abrahamic traditions that would honor that. So they actually, instead of being greedy and doing the unchristian thing, they actually did something, I think, that was deeply rooted in their tradition. Yeah. And so now we have the property. And as a way of honoring it, they had this huge cross there. When we took it down, we called them and we called others to see if they wanted the cross. We didn't want to desecrate it. And they actually sent a group up and did a ceremony to desacralize the cross so that we could remove it. So I think these are examples of just showing respect for another tradition. Right. And I think the Holy Hill is a good example of that. We call it the Holy Hill. I told the Muslims that when we move there, we don't want to be holier than thou, but make it a little holier than it is. And so that's an interfaith community in UC Berkeley. And I think the greatest obstacle that we have is ignorance. Because when we have people that are educated within their traditions, they tend to have an open-mindedness and a tolerance or respect that differs from when you have ignorance. And I mentioned the other day that in Arabic, the word for ignorance is opposite knowledge, but it's also opposite of fanaticism. So the jahil is ignorant, but it also means a zealous, fanatical person, somebody who reacts aggressively. And so we have to be really committed to, I think, religious literacy, and my undergraduate degree was in religious studies, so I studied all the world's religions, but I truly believe that religious literacy is extremely important in our time, that we have to educate people about this. And then the other thing is Sheikh Abdullah bin Bayya constantly reminds us, and I've heard him say this many times, that the Quran, he says, karamatul insan fi kitabillah tasbiqu karamatul mu'min. That the human dignity precedes faith dignity. And we have in our tradition, in the Islamic tradition, you have an ontological dignity that every human being has, irrespective of where they come from. And then there's an acquired dignity through virtuous actions and through things. But recognizing the imago Dei, that every human being is a creation of God and has that right to be respected as something. The beautiful word in Arabic for respect, ihtiram, it comes from hurma, which is sanctity. So respect in Arabic, yahtarimu is from a wazan ifta'ala for people that know some Arabic. You know, it's a reflexive verb. It means to internalize the sanctity of the other. So that's literally what respect means. إِذَا أَحْتَرَمُكَ أَرَى حُرْمَةَ اللَّهِ فِيكَ. I see the hurma of God in you, أَحْتَرِمُكَ. And a sanctuary is a haram. It's a place where it's inviolable, and the self is inviolable. So I think restoring the inviolability of the human being, of the self, is extremely important, especially in an age where blood flows so freely in too many places. On the other hand, it's important to be reminded, and I recently read a book by a United Nations physician called Factfulness, and it's a very interesting anecdote because he makes a very powerful argument that in many ways we're living in one of the best times in human history. And so I think we have to also project a positivity. If we're always focusing on the negativity, right, then we really do a grave disservice because people need consolation. It's in the Catholic tradition, it's a gift of the Holy Spirit. You know, the gift of consolation, of being able to console others, because the world is filled with immense pain. And religion's most powerful, the most powerful thing that religion has is the ability to numb the pain of the suffering of this world. And if religion doesn't do that, opium, physical opium, will do it.
Will do it. Okay. Thank you so much. Professor Sellers, you know, we can do all of this, but I really want to talk about the involvement of young people, youth. For this alliance to be operational, we have to engage young people. I understand that the American Baptist churches started a dialogue between young youth, basically, from the Baptist communities and the Muslim communities. You wanna just briefly tell us about that?
I think you're exactly correct, Mohammed, that we have to engage young people across our traditions, that the future of this movement rests in the hands of the young. If you look around this room, most of us are not young. And we want to be able to attract young people to the cause that we believe in so much. At the Parliament, for the first time in Toronto, we had a family festival. We had a whole stream of programming for children and young teenagers who had come with their parents to the Parliament. And there were sessions and workshops and breakout sessions presented by people who are creating interfaith materials, curriculum materials for elementary school and middle school and the like. And so there is a recognition that as in so many important areas of life, we have to teach our children and our grandchildren that it is important to trust and respect and befriend people who are different than ourselves. Years ago, there was a Broadway show that became a movie called South Pacific. And in this play and movie, there was a song that has stuck with me over the years, and I want to quote the lyrics of the song. It might be difficult to interpret, but if you understand my English, you'll get the meaning. The song goes like this: you have to be taught before it's too late, before you are 6 or 7 or 8, to hate all the people your relatives hate. You have to be carefully taught. You have to be taught to be afraid of people whose eyes are oddly made and people whose skin is a different shade. You have to be carefully taught. Now, that song appeared in the movie and in the play because a young man from Arkansas in the United States had fallen in love with a young woman from a Pacific island, and he was worried how his relatives would accept the love that he had felt for this woman. And he said, this is what it is like in Arkansas in the 1940s, and sadly, for a lot of people in the U.S., it's still the case, that we teach our young people to hate and be afraid of and to be suspicious of people who are different, whose eyes are oddly shaped or whose skin is a different shade, who speak another language, who pray in a different way than we do. But I am convinced that we have to teach them before it is too late, while they are 6 or 7 or 8, to trust people who are different, to befriend people who are different, to love people who are different, to be neighbors with people who are different. This is the future of our world. This is the future of peace. And we have to go back to where we live and work and think of ways that we can instruct and teach and train our children, our young people, to believe in interfaith.
Education is the key, and all of us, we have to be taught.
Yeah.
I wanna get to you, Catherine, and I'm gonna basically ask Catherine a question, but I want you to prepare to be prepared also to ask questions as well. So, Catherine, yes, how we can involve youth? I need like a practical, kind of examples, ideas, because we talk about it all the time, but we need to have a clear roadmap to involve youth.
I think it's really an excellent question, and we ask it, as you just said, all of the time. And yet, I think that the answer, at least the beginning of the answer, is really quite simple. And it has to do not just with inviting youth in to an agenda, but inviting youth to participate in the development of the agenda.
Okay. To cook the meal, basically.
To cook the meal, yes.
I see.
And we have experienced in multiple ways through the initiatives I described earlier that youth are already, as has been said even this morning, they are already doing this work. They are already leading the way. And sometimes we simply need to learn from their example, to get out of the way and perhaps even sometimes follow them. I think that there are examples any of our communities could lift up of youth and young adults who have taken seriously the call for a new alliance of virtue, who have enacted it and embodied it, who have stood for the expansiveness of the call that we share, who have lifted up models of equity, the inclusion of women as participants and leaders, not only because they're key to building inclusive societies, but because they're also key to the religious formation of youth and young adults. All of those layers, the connectional work that we can do across organizations rather than building a new wheel every time we want to engage. I think the youth are teaching us a lot about that, and so it is about inviting youth who are already engaged in the work to participate in the formation of the agenda.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you so much. I want to get questions from the audience, and I have the first hand here. Can we give the mic? Do you have a mic around? We got a few questions we can get from the audience. Yes, Mahjoub, we have a question here, and then we have a question there as well. Okay. That's good. I'm very happy to take the first two questions from women. So that's good. Yes, yeah, there.
بسم الله والحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله. أود أن أبدأ أولا بشكر شيخنا وقدوتنا الشيخ عبد الله بن أبي على إجراء هذه الملتقيات المفيدة جدا للمجتمعات المسلمة وللمجتمعات غير المسلمة، مهمة للإنسانية جمعاء. بالنسبة لحزب الفضول أريد أن أنبه إلى أن رغم أن الحزب أو المفاهيم أو المقصود من المفاهيم هذه مفاهيم كانت خارجة قبل الإسلام، إلا أن الإسلام استطاع أن يطبق هذه المفاهيم في مدى تاريخه النير. فنأخذ مثلا عمر بن الخطاب رضي الله عنه. عمر بن الخطاب رضي الله عنه لم يرد أن يصلي في كنيسة القيامة، بل صلى خارجها خوف أن تهدم كنيسة القيامة. عمر بن الخطاب أيضا رضي الله عنه أعطى قيمة كبيرة جدا لحقوق الإنسان بمفهومها المعاصر، وليست قضية القبطي الذي تشاجر مع ابن الوالي والي مصر عمر بن العاص. بعيد عنا لا يمكن أن أطيل هنا وإشرح الحيثيات جميعا، ولكنه انتقم لقبطي بسيط من ابن الوالي وأمر ابن الوالي أن يضرب هذا القبطي. فهذه كانت قمة في الوقت الحالي لا يمكن تطبيقها بمفهومها الحقيقي. أيضا هو أعطى قيمة للمرأة، لأنه عندنا مقولة معروفة: أخطأ عمر وصدقت امرأة، لأنها ناقشته في حقوقها، ناقشته في حقوق المرأة فاعترف بخطئه وبصدقها. إذن استطاع الإسلام في عصوره النيرة أن يطبق مفاهيم حلف الفضول، وأن يصل إلى المكنون من هذه المفاهيم، وهو العدل والقيم والمحافظة على القيم.
هل هنالك سؤال؟
ولكن
هل هنالك سؤال بعينه؟
نعم، هناك سؤال معين.
نعم.
السؤال الآن هو أنه رجال الدين بشكل عام يظلمون المرأة
بشكل عام؟
نعم بشكل عام، يعني اسمح لي وليسمح لي رجال الدين، لأنهم دائما يضعونها في الخلف. وما أفهمه شخصيا أو ما أعرفه شخصيا هو أن رجال الدين في الإسلام في مراحل متقدمة، المراحل بعد العصر النير للإسلام، تخلوا عن رسالتهم، تخلوا عن حقوق الإنسان بشكل عام، وأضاعوا الأمانة إلى حد معين، حتى أصبحنا أمة متهمة بالتطرف. ونحن معروفون نحن رسالتنا رسالة راحمة، رسالتنا تأمر بالرحمة، وأصبحنا أيضا أمة مدانة بالتحيز ضد المرأة.
شكرا جزيلا.
وديننا أول من أوصى على حقوق المرأة.
شكرا لك، يعني الرسالة واضحة والسؤال واضح جدا. نعم إن شاء الله.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم، والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا محمد خاتم الأنبياء والمرسلين. أولا أشكر الشيخ عبد الله بن بية على هذا الملتقى الرائع جدا، وهو خامس ملتقى، ولاحظت أن هذه الملتقيات منذ 2014 إلى 2018 يربطها خيط ناظم. هذا الخيط بدأ بمفهوم السلم، ثم كيف نقوم بالسلم، ثم الدولة الوطنية، والخوف من الإسلام، الإسلاموفوبيا الذي نعاني منه نحن اليوم في العالم. واليوم نقف عند حلف الفضول ودور حلف الفضول في السلم، وهذا عمل أذكره فأشكره لأنه
شكرا.
عمل على لا اتركني أتكلم. أنا جيت من تونس وأنا أستاذ تعليم عالي وأدرس علوم الإسلام، ولي كتاب في الاختلاف وأدب الاختلاف في الثقافة الإسلامية، ولي كتاب في الأنسنة والحوار والتعايش في الإسلام منذ 2008 يوم كان الكلام في هذا الموضوع ممنوع. وبالتالي اسمحوا لي فإني هنا وجدت نفسي وسعدت كثيرا كوني موجودة بين هؤلاء العلماء العظام. كما أشكر الشيخ عبد الله بن بية على قضية مراجعة التراث، لأن هناك انحراف عما جاء به الإسلام في حقوق المرأة وبين ما قاله بعض الفقهاء وبعض الشيوخ، لا نعمم دائما. ونحن نريد هنا أن يساندنا علماء الدين، أقول علماء الدين وأقول عالمات الدين. وأقترح في هذه الجلسة أن يكون، لأن موضوع الشباب كذلك أعجبني كثيرا، أن يكون هناك ملتقى يدعى فيه الشباب للمحاضرة ليحاضروا في هذا الموضوع. وتدعى فيه النساء، ما هو دور النساء في نشر السلم، لأن المرأة في المفاوضات في النزاعات المسلحة، وتعرفوا القرار 1325 وغيره من القرارات غير مفعلة، فإنهم عندما تكون المرأة ستدخل في المفاوضات في النزاعات المسلحة وهي التي تفقد الزوج وتفقد الابن وتفقد الابن وتغادر تهجر من بيتها وتتعرض للاغتصاب وتتعرض للحمل غير الشرعي، ومع ذلك يقولون لها ماذا ستفعلين مع الدواعش أو ماذا، ولا يقولون ذلك للرجل. إذن هنا كذلك دور المرأة، أقترح في هذا المجال عن دور المرأة في بناء السلم في الوطن الإسلامي وفي غيره من الأوطان.
شكرا لك.
سؤالي للمحاضرين ولك أنت سيد الرئيس، ما هي المنهجية التي يمكن أن نوعي بها الشباب في السلم؟ وأنا في الجامعة عن الحق احنا كل سنتين تدرس مادة، اخترت مادة الاختلاف وأدب الاختلاف أدرسها لطلبة المرحلة الثالثة، وأسندنا رسائل في هذا المجال وفي مجال السلم الاجتماعي والتماسك الأسري.
السؤال واضح
العفو.
جدا.
شكرا.
سؤال واضح جدا، وأشكرك يعني على هذا السؤال. أنا أسماء كفتارو، بس سؤال مباشرة لو تكرمتي حتى نأخذ أكبر عدد من الأسئلة.
طبعا الدكتورة منجية صادرت كل ما كنت أريد أن أتحدث
طيب
عنه.
شكرا لك.
ولكن أريد أن أضيف إلى ما تكلم به سماحة الشيخ حمزة يوسف. نحن نعلم أن الإرادة الطيبة لسماحة الشيخ العلامة عبد الله بن بية في نفض التراب عن الموروث بشكل إيجابي هو ما سوف يجعل الإسلاموفوبيا بعيدا كل البعد عن الإسلام والمسلمين. أنا أرى أن يعني كانت اليوم نحن نحاول أن نبحث عن آليات لبناء مواطنة شاملة وسلم مجتمعي من خلال حلف الفضول، وأظن أن حلف الفضول رافعاً إيجابياً حقيقياً لبناء المواطنة. ولكن أعيد وأؤكد على ما تكلمت به زميلتي قبلي على أن اليوم إذا أردنا المواطنة الشاملة ولم نتحدث عن النساء وحقوق النساء فإن كل عملنا يعني ناقص فعلا. نحن دعونا نستذكر اليوم تتكلمون عن التجارب، تتكلمون عن القصص، ولكن دعوني أقول عندما دخلت أسماء بنت عميس إلى النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم بعد عودتها من الحبشة، ماذا قالت لنساء النبي؟ ماذا أتى بنا نحن النساء من السماء؟ فقالت لم يأتي، فدخلت إلى النبي ثائرة قالت ما لي أرى وحيك يأتي للرجال دون النساء. فأتت أنا أرى أن الآية التي تتكلم عن المساواة المطلقة، إن المسلمين والمسلمات والمؤمنين والمؤمنات والقانتين والقانتات إلى نهاية الآية في سورة الأحزاب، أنا أقول أرفض أن يقال الشباب دون الشابات، أرفض أن يقال القيادات الدينية الرجالية دون القيادات الدينية النسائية. نحن نريد هذه الروح من التساوي تحت لواء حلف يحقق للجميع مواطنة شاملة في الوطن العربي والإسلامي.
شكرا جزيلا دكتورة أسماء، واضح جدا.
أنا لست دكتورة، أعيد وأكرر.
طيب أسماء كفتارو، شكرا.
هذا أجمل.
طيب نحن نعود يعني I'm gonna get back here to the panel and then if we have time we're gonna take more questions. But let me begin with you, Yenna Wahid. I really want you to address some of these questions that from the audience. There are a number of questions, the involvement of women, supporting the youth, and also the scholarship and extremism and all of that.
Yes, thank you, Dr. Sanusi, and I just want to praise you first for only allowing women to ask the questions. That was very brave, but I didn't see the men protesting, so it's also good. Yes. First of all, I think I share the sentiments of my sisters here that involving women is a must. You know, it's not even
an option. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not even it's unquestionable. Yeah. You need to involve women in all of activities in all walks of life in trying to create impact. If you don't include women, then how are you going to create a meaningful impact? I mean, that's the first question. And second one, involving youth is also a must because youth is in a vulnerable position to be radicalized because of the nature of youth itself. You know, young people in certain junctures in their lives, they face frustrations. They want to assert their identity. They want to feel meaningful about themselves. So when they then get persuaded by the wrong, radical groups, then you've got a problem. And young people in the world, they face the same frustrations, and regardless of their religious backgrounds. I mean, whether they're religious, or even whether they're religious or whether they're secular. Secular kids, for example, secular youth, when they're frustrated, they might go to drugs. They might go to petty criminals. But religious people, when they are then being enticed by the religious rhetorics, then this is a very dangerous situation because then they might want to join ISIS or they might want to create problems in their own communities. So you need to engage them. But how do you engage them? The way to engage them is to speak their language. We cannot patronize them. We cannot have a monologue. That's one of the problems that we have, is that we tend to have a monologue with them. But you need to have a dialogue. But sometimes parents, we as parents, we are very adverse to being criticized by our kids, but it's a must. You know, allow them a space, a safe space where they can explore their thoughts, where they can explore their intention to assert their identities, and also flood them with messages that promote peace. And I think this is really important because we've got people, especially now with social media, we've got all these, ulamas that promote actually radical notions, and the kids, and in such a sensationalist way that the kids tend to follow that because it's easy, it's a black and white approach. You know, you've got a problem, the problem is caused by the infidels or something like that, and then, you know, the way to fight it is to wage a jihad against them. That's a very black and white, simplistic perspective. So we need to get them, we need to build critical thinking in our youth to make sure that whatever information they get, then they can then create a synthesis of all these informations and then still be on the right path.
Thank you so much. Wonderful. Sheikh Hamza, we're going to conclude. This is going to be the last round. Yeah, we're good to you. Yes.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. أولا يعني أشكر الأخوات اللواتي قدمنا هذه الملاحظات والأسئلة المهمة. أسماء بنت عميس يعني المهم أنها هي التي ذهبت وطلبت، وأنا الذي استفدت من هذا أن بعد هذا كل الآيات وردت بالذكر والأنثى، أما قبلها بالذكور مع المفهوم أن يشمل الذكر والأنثى يعني، لكن على كل حال أنا الذي استفدت منه أن هي لا بد أن تطالب، لا بد أن هي تتقدم وتطلب حقها. الشيء الثاني أن حينما أسمع عن التعذيب وعن أمثال داعش وما يحدث في كثير من البلدان الآن، السؤال الذي يأتيني من ربت هؤلاء؟ يعني الأمة المدرسة إذا عددت شعبا طيب عراقي، يعني الأم عليها أن تربي الأولاد بالشفقة وبتعاطف على الإنسان وعلى البشر. فنحن عندنا نقصان كبير في العالم الإسلامي في تربية النساء، والنبي صلى الله عليه وسلم ركز على تربية النساء. So it's extremely important that we educate both our men and our women, our youth. Like you said before, the famous Catholic statements of Ignatius Loyola, if we get them before 7, we'll have them on our deathbed. You know, so it's very important to get children early enculturated into a culture of compassion, a culture of care for the other. Empathy is a major problem. And empathy, ta'atuf. You know, the Quran, the Prophet ﷺ talked about the believers have mutual empathy. And they don't just have empathy for one another. They have empathy for not just their own group, religious group, but for creation. We know we have, in Muslim history, we have countless endowments that were for animals, for the care of animals. One of the tragedies in many parts of the Muslim world is the abuse of animals. The children actually abuse animals, which is a very dangerous sign. The Prophet ﷺ had a house filled with animals. It's very important to nurture children with a respect and a love for animals, because every prophet was a shepherd. And the reason our scholars say that is because they learned to care for the weakest of creatures. And so moving up from that is very important. So I totally agree. In terms of the minhaj, we have to reassess our Islamic tradition. It's very important to remember that empire adopted the religion of Islam. Empire used Islam for its own pursuits. We have to get back to what the original intentions of our Prophet ﷺ. Our Prophet was not a warmonger. He was not belligerent. In Sahih al-Bukhari, he said, لا تتمنوا لقاء العدو وسأل الله العافية. Do never desire to meet an enemy, but ask Allah for peace, for well-being. That he was a man of peace. If ever he had an opportunity to reduce a violent situation, he took that opportunity. And this is why out of 29 ghazwa, there was only fighting in 11. because he would always go for the peaceful option. If we don't teach our youth that our religion is a religion that calls for peace, Allah yad'u ila dar as-salam. God is calling to the abode of peace, not to the abode of war. كُلُّمَا أَوْقَدَ نَارًا لِلْحَرْبِ أَطْفَأَهَا اللَّهُ. Every time they attempted to create war situations, God put that out. And so sakina is, you know, in the Quran, in Surah Al-Fath, when Allah juxtaposes the jahli impulse, hamiyat al-jahiliya, of war, Allah says, Anzara ala al-mu'min, Anzara sakina. He caused the sakina to come down on the believers. That we have too much aggression right now. And there are many reasons for it, but if we don't teach people the virtues of patience, the virtues of moving toward, anyway. Yeah.
And to address all of that, you know, it's important to address all of that. We have to adopt inclusivity. We have to be inclusive. No one left behind. Yeah. And I'm really delighted.
Dr. Sanusi, can I just add just a little bit about the women
please,
thing?
yeah.
Right, because
30 seconds, right?
20 seconds, yes. Okay, yes, women need to step forward, but we need also men to facilitate when we're stepping forward, because whether we like it or not, men still hold the key to many rooms. And without them facilitating for women when they are stepping forward, there's no way that women are going to be on stage. So I really appreciate the organizer of this conference for having women on stage. This is something that is not very common in many traditional religious backgrounds. So really appreciate it. Thank you.
We're very happy.